I found that what Noah Webster had said was right on for our times when he warned long ago that the education of youth should be watched with the most scrupulous intention. It is much easier to introduce an establishment of an effectual system than to correct by penal statutes the ill effects of a bad one. In other words, prevention is better than cure. The education of youth lays a foundation on which both the law and the gospel rest for success. Now, what's missing then? The law and the gospel, the 10 commandments, and salvation by Jesus Christ. That would be liberation from sin. Remember this, please, that law detects and grace conquers. If there's no law to detect the sin, the transgression of God's law in 1 John 3:4, then there's no need for the grace to conquer. John 1:17 says, "For the law was given by Moses, grace and truth came by Jesus Christ." But without this knowledge, the bad system begins to come forth in 1962, and so it did. In my war, I will show you the fallout, what is being dumped on our young today. I will show you your departure from our God and our Judeo-Christian principles in which our forefathers had established. In this documentary series, My War, I will show you what the answers are. That is, how the light exposes darkness, truth exposes the lie, education exposes indoctrination, and how love exposes hate. I will hit topics from Hollywood, media lies, republic versus democracy, corruption, our most awesome veterans, education versus indoctrination, what love really is, how you reap what you sow, justice and judgment, drugs, alcohol abuse, sex, tragedy and triumph, smoking, influence from the movie stars, choice versus sickness, liberty, the price of liberty, gun control, the heart of America, our Bill of Rights, the military's oaths, and of course our children. Also a couple school fallouts where the assemblies were actually shut down for teaching the Constitution and moral issues of the day. I will combat the lies the media tried to throw on us with actual footage from the reports on my assembly, and what they didn't know was that we were filming them as well. I will also teach a natural lesson so you can understand spiritual matters. I will bring in the international band Junkyard Prophet so you can get a taste of who we are all the way around. And P.S. Junkyard Prophet was the second best unsigned band at POD because Junkyard Prophet said no to the label offers and yes to you, the students across this country. That's why we were second. And all of these consist of the topics being explored in My War. Finally, we can teach what we know, America, but we can only produce who we are. And what our young are being subjected to is not the end that we want them to become. As King Jesus puts it, wisdom is justified by her children. So let's not find ourselves complaining about what we are responsible for, because the mirror will not lie in what it reflects. So let's take a look.
I am a member of the upcoming generation, the one after Generation X, that has not yet been given a name. So far, it appears that most people are rallying behind the idea of calling us Generation Next. I believe I know why.
The older generations are hoping we will mindlessly assume our place as the next in line. That way, they won't have to explain why my generation has had to experience so much pain and heartache. What heartache, you say? Don't you know that you have grown up in a time of great prosperity? Yeah, we know that. Believe me, it has been drilled into our heads since birth. Unfortunately, the pain and hurt I speak of can't be reconciled with money. You have tried for years to buy us happiness, but it is only temporary. Money isn't the answer, and it is time for people to begin admitting their guilt for failing my generation.
I will admit that I wasn't planning to write this. I was going to tuck it away in some corner of my mind and fall victim to your whole next mentality. But after the massacre in Littleton, Colorado, I realized that as a member of this generation that kills without remorse, I had a duty to challenge all of my elders to explain why they have allowed things to become so bad.
Let me tell you this, these questions don't represent only me, but a whole generation that is struggling to grow up and make sense of this world. We all have questions, we all want explanations. People may label us Generation Next, but we are more appropriately Generation Y. Why did most of you lie when you made the vow of till death do us part? Why do you fool yourselves into believing that divorce really is better for the kids in the long run? Why do so many of you divorced parents spend more time with your new boyfriend or girlfriend than with your own children? Why did you ever fall victim to the notion that kids are just as well off being raised by a complete stranger at a daycare center than by their own mother or father? Why do you look down on parents who decide to quit work and stay home to raise their children? Why does the television do most of the talking at family meals? Why is work more important than your own family? Why is money regarded as more important than relationships? Why is quality time generally no longer than a 5 to 10 minute conversation each day?
Why do you try to make up for the lack of time you spend with us by giving us more and more material objects that we really don't need? Why does your work in the form of a cell phone, laptop, computer, etc. always come with us on vacations? Why have you neglected to teach us values and morals? Why haven't you lived moral lives that we could model our own after? Why isn't religion one of the most important words in our household? Why do you play God when it comes to abortion?
Why don't you have enough faith in us to teach us abstinence rather than safe sex? Why are you so afraid to tell us no sometimes?
Why do you allow us to watch violent movies but expect us to maintain some type of childlike innocence? Why do you allow us to spend unlimited amounts of time on the internet, but still are shocked about our knowledge of how to build bombs? Why is it so hard for you to realize that school shootings and other violent juvenile behavior result from the lack of your attention more than anything else?
Call us Generation Next if you want to, but I think you will be surprised at how we will fail to fit into your neat little category. These questions should and will be asked of the generations that have failed us.
Man, reality check to America. I mean, basically the whole world, if we could all just come back to our senses.